It's not a boat engine, it's a V12 supercar strapped to your transom. 600 horsepower, 2 gears, a steerable lower unit. Mercury calls it genius. Mechanics call it terrifying. So today we're asking, how bad is the Mercury 600 really? Let's rewind a bit. In 2021, Mercury Marine stunned the boating world with something no one asked for but everyone secretly wanted, a 7.6-liter, naturally aspirated V12 outboard pushing 600 horsepower. To put that in perspective, that's more displacement than a Dodge Charger. It's also the first outboard engine with a 2-speed automatic transmission and a steerable lower unit. Yep, the bottom half turns, the top half stays still. Mercury's goal? Replace twin or triple outboards on large luxury boats with fewer, more powerful engines. Less clutter, less drag, and more bragging rights. It was a bold move, like strapping a jet engine to a fishing boat. The press went wild. Dealers called it game-changing. The rest of the boating world called it a science experiment with propellers. But before we find out everything you need to know, subscribe, because this is going to be fun. The Mercury 600 Verado isn't just a big engine, it's an engineering statement. It's got 12 cylinders arranged in a 60-degree V, a massive displacement block, and a computer system that could probably run your house. The lower unit swivels independently, which means no more visible steering arms or hydraulic rams cluttering your transom. The gearbox changes ratios automatically, low gear for thrust, high gear for cruise. And the props? Counter-rotating, because of course they are. It's like Mercury looked at every limitation in traditional outboards and said, let's fix all of them in one go and add a second gear while we're at it. It's sleek, smart, and absolutely gigantic. The cowling alone looks like it was designed by NASA. But when you throw that much technology into one housing, things can go sideways fast, and that's where the story gets interesting. The Mercury Verado 600 is a 7.6-liter, naturally aspirated V12 outboard, the first of its kind. It sounds incredible on paper. 600 horsepower, a 2-speed automatic transmission, and a steerable gear case that turns while the power head stays still. It's engineering brilliance until you start living with it. First, the good stuff. It's smooth, powerful, and eerily quiet. The steering feels effortless, docking a 50-footer becomes child's play, and it sounds more like a luxury car than an outboard. The 600's low gear digs in hard and high gear cruises efficiently. Mercury even stretched service intervals. 1,000 hours between full services is impressive. But then, there's the ugly side. The engine weighs 1,260 pounds, costs nearly $90,000, and guzzles fuel like it's allergic to savings. Early owners have reported steering faults, overheating warnings, and mysterious error codes that vanish faster than dealer appointments. And when something breaks, good luck, this thing needs a laptop, not a wrench. Aesthetically, let's just say it's commanding. More industrial fridge than sleek V8. So how bad is it actually? Not catastrophic, just complicated. It's a mechanical marvel that's still learning to walk. For big yachts and commercial operators, it's groundbreaking. For everyday boaters, it's probably overkill. The Mercury 600 isn't a disaster, it's a diva. When it performs, it's breathtaking. When it doesn't, it reminds you that being first doesn't always mean being perfect. Still, one thing's for sure, it's the loudest quiet revolution Mercury's ever made. Let's start with the positives, because despite the clickbait title, the Mercury 600 isn't all bad. First off, the power delivery is incredible. The automatic 2-speed transmission is smooth, and the torque curve feels like an electric motor. You can pull a 40-foot boat out of the hole like it's a jet ski. Second, it's surprisingly quiet. At idle, the V12 hums more like a luxury sedan than a marine engine. One journalist called it eerily calm, like it's plotting something. Third, that steerable gear case. It's genius. It means you can mount multiple engines closer together, save space, and still turn on a dime. Docking a 50-foot cruiser has never felt easier or cooler. And finally, service intervals. The 600 can go 200 hours between oil changes and 1,000 hours before a full service. That's impressive and a big deal for commercial operators. In short, Mercury managed to make a high-horsepower outboard that's refined, smooth, and genuinely innovative. On paper, it's a masterpiece. But in the real world, that's where things start to creak. Now for the ugly truth, because every revolution comes with a repair bill. Weight. The Mercury 600 tips the scales at nearly 1,260 pounds. That's heavier than two Yamaha 300s combined. Mount more than a pair of these beasts, and you risk turning your sleek offshore cruiser into a stern-heavy tugboat. You'll plane slower, burn more fuel, and spend half your time whispering reassuring words to your transom bolts. Cost. Each one of these monsters will set you back $80,000 to $90,000 US before installation. So if you're running quads, congratulations, you didn't buy engines, you bought a small condo that happens to come with propellers. Complexity. Between the steerable gear case, 2-speed transmission, digital steering, and a dozen sensors, this thing's a rolling supercomputer. When it works, it's magnificent. When it doesn't, you'll need a technician with a laptop, Wi-Fi, and possibly divine intervention. You don't fix a Mercury 600, you negotiate with it. Reliability. Early owners have reported steering faults, overheating alarms, and mysterious error codes that vanish the moment a mechanic shows up. Even certified Mercury techs sometimes call headquarters for backup. It's a bit like owning a spaceship, impressive, but don't expect to fix it with a wrench. Fuel economy. Mercury calls it efficient, but remember, you're feeding 12 cylinders. Twin 600s can burn 120 gallons an hour at full throttle. That's not efficiency. That's nautical bankruptcy. And finally, looks. Let's be honest, it's chunky. The cowling design screams industrial refrigerator. Powerful, yes. Elegant? Let's just say it's the kind of engine only an engineer could love. Here's where it gets fun. One captain who runs a charter in Florida told a boating magazine, "The 600s make my 47-footer handle like a sports car, but every time I turn the key, I hold my breath." Another owner on the Hull Truth Forum wrote, "They're awesome when they work. When they don't, it's a $500 service call just to reset a code." And then there's the guy who said, "I told my mechanic I bought a pair of 600s. He said, 'Congratulations.' Also, see you soon." Of course, Mercury has been updating firmware, refining hydraulic systems, and improving reliability with every revision. Most issues aren't catastrophic. They're the growing pains of a moonshot engine. But still, for something this expensive, even small hiccups feel magnified. Let's compare the Mercury 600 to its rivals, the good, the bad, and the beautifully over-engineered Yamaha XTO 450. V8. Yamaha's flagship outboard is the definition of proven reliability. It's lighter, simpler, and far easier to service when something inevitably breaks miles from shore. No gears, no steerable gear case, no digital drama, just raw, dependable V8 muscle. It might lack the sci-fi gadgets of the Mercury 600, but if you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, you'd much rather have a Yamaha mechanic than a Wi-Fi connection. 7 Marine 627. Now here's a ghost from the past. 7 Marine's 627 horsepower outboards were the original mega-engine experiment. They were powerful, loud, and terrifyingly expensive, but they also overheated, broke down, and required an engineering degree to maintain. The company eventually folded, leaving Mercury to inherit the dream. Some say the 600 is simply 7 Marine 2.0, a refined version of the same wild idea, but this time with Mercury's budget, brains, and marketing muscle behind it. Volvo Penta IPS. Meanwhile, inboard systems like Volvo's IPS are still the gold standard for big boats. Integrated joystick control, smoother handling, and less noise make them favorites among captains who value consistency over complexity. They're easier to maintain, quieter under load, and unlike the Mercury 600, don't look like sci-fi towers bolted to your transom. So where does the Mercury 600 fit? Somewhere between brilliance and over-engineering. It's the Swiss Army knife of propulsion, ingenious in concept, unpredictable in execution. For boaters chasing cutting-edge performance, it's thrilling. For everyone else, it's proof that just because you can build a V12 outboard doesn't always mean you should. Boaters joke that the Mercury 600 is the Ferrari of the seas, amazing performance, but don't ask about parts prices. You don't fix it yourself. You consult with it. It's like owning a diva that demands premium fuel, constant attention, and applause after every start. One mechanic reportedly said, "These things are so advanced, if you open the cowling wrong, they send a distress signal to Wisconsin." And that's kind of true. Mercury has remote diagnostics now. They literally know when your engine's having a bad day. Here's where things look promising. Mercury knows the 600 isn't for everyone. It's a technology demonstrator. It shows what's possible when engineering goes wild. The automatic transmission and steerable lower unit will trickle down into smaller models soon. They've already hinted at future V10 and V8 Verado engines borrowing some of that DNA, but with fewer headaches. And as the marine industry edges toward hybridization and smarter electronics, the 600 was a necessary step. Someone had to go first. Think of it like the iPhone 1. Expensive, buggy, and overhyped, but essential for what came next. Here's the truth. It's not bad, it's brilliantly risky. The Mercury 600 is a triumph of ambition, a glimpse of the future, and a guaranteed conversation starter at any dock. But it's also a reminder that new technology always comes with teething issues. For the average boater, it's overkill. For high-end yacht owners, it's a power move. For Mercury, it's a gamble that's already paying off in reputation, even if a few engines had rough starts. If you're the kind of person who upgrades your phone every year, you'll love the Mercury 600. If you still miss carburetors, maybe stick to your trusty 300 Verado. Because here's the irony. The Mercury 600 is both the most advanced and most controversial outboard ever built. It's proof that progress on the water doesn't come quietly. It comes with 12 cylinders, a 2-speed gearbox, and an ego the size of a yacht. So, how bad is it really? Not terrible. Just terrifyingly new. It's not a failure, it's a work in progress. The kind of engine that makes engineers proud, accountants nervous, and mechanics buy new diagnostic tablets. If you're buying one, go in with open eyes, a thick wallet, and a strong relationship with your Mercury dealer. You'll have one of the most advanced pieces of machinery ever bolted to a transom. And maybe, just maybe, a story or two for the next Marina Happy Hour. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe for more deep dives into the engines shaping boating's future. Because whether it's 12 cylinders or zero emissions, the next revolution is already idling at the dock.